So I know you guys saw this machine work, but it's actually kind of in terrible condition. I'll show you some more pictures underneath. I'll show you guys the inner workings of it. But the long story short, this machine, the suspension is completely shot. The shocks are completely worn out. It also has a small leak. And it is really, really rusty underneath this machine. This has got to be the longest surviving Calypso washer I've ever seen in my entire life. Unfortunately, this one is not worth repairing or saving for that matter. So I'm going to show you guys kind of the inner workings. I'm going to go as deep as I can with this machine before I lose my motivation to. So we're basically going to part it out and let somebody else have parts so they can keep their better condition Calypso going for hopefully years to come. So let's get right into it. So we're going to start from the top. To remove the console, you got to just push here. There's two clips on each side. And then the entire rear console will come off. So I'm going to remove it kind of all in one shot. One thing worth noting, which I thought was kind of weird, this board, which is this is a machine controller. This one is the motor control unit. You could always tell which one's the motor control by which one has the huge capacitors and usually has a really big heat sink, because this is what does like the forward and reversing of the motor. This one, however, had, I'm sorry, you're not going to see this, but this capacitor's bulged along with this one. And there's one other one too, and the machine still worked, so I'll probably change those before I resell this board. But anyways, we got a touchpad, and then we got an MCU and a CCU, and then a water level pressure switch. So those are all really good parts. Up top here we have inlet valve assemblies. This is a power conditioner, which very rarely goes bad, but we will save that too, just because this machine is so rare. So I think to remove this inlet valve, you see how gross this machine is underneath here? In really poor condition. It's kind of sad because this is such a rare machine. Too far gone, unfortunately. Okay. Ugh, gosh, this machine is gross. You know, on the surface, this machine looks really clean. But once I opened it up, I basically was going to condemn this washer because it was just in awful conditions. Let me reposition so we could get to the guts of it, and we'll see what we can do. Alright, I'm going to try and take the mutator off. One of the biggest flaws with this machine is this little gasket here on the outside. What happens is it loses its sealing ability, and clothes would pass through and clog the pump, which led to like the next Achilles heel of this machine. The pumps, the moment they got clogged, they stripped the spline and then they were worthless. And so Whirlpool reworked the pump again and changed it from a very fine spline shaft to a thicker spline shaft. The problem is that the pump was two pieces. It was a pump connected to its own individual motor. And so to do that upgrade, you had to change the pump and the motor, and it was incredibly expensive to do that upgrade. It was, you know, from a used washer standpoint, it was a couple $100, and it was not worth it just in parts. And then finally, I believe this is one of the later versions of the Calypso, where they kind of got the pump thing straightened out, and I'll show you the pump when we get down there. But at that point, it was kind of too late for this machine. It had gotten such a bad rap. Okay, so there's the cover. And you can see this is about to get really, really gross. And that was another issue with this machine, is that underneath this wash plate, you're going to see a total, like, ton of garbage. Okay, so we're going to take some more bolts off and see. And sorry guys, I haven't taken one of these apart in like forever, so I'm kind of remembering as I go. And my memory is a little, I'm certainly no expert with this machine. Okay, I'm almost positive that this mutator should pop off. Oh gosh, I can't remember now. Huh, right there, that's why it didn't come off. 2 more bolts hidden underneath all that sludge. Okay, so now that we solved that little mystery. Okay. There we go. But now I need to take this tub ring off. Gosh, this washer is so gross. It's like, what were they washing? Like clay? There, well, this balance ring is actually good. I will clean it, and maybe if somebody needs it. Once the balance ring leaks, it's a pretty much game over, because that's not really something that you could repair. Okay, look at that. Disgusting. Disgusting. Now underneath here is, I believe, the U-joint. Oh, and I just got to remember now how to get all of that apart. Let me go. I'm going to have to get my Calypso book. I have the repair manual for this in my file cabinet somewhere, and I'll be right back. Okay, well, I referred to the manual, and according to the manual, this should just lift right out. Evidently, it's just stuck, so. There we go. Oh, jeez. Huh. Well, it's got a little bearing inside of it. Alright, so this is the U-joint, evidently. What a complicated machine. Okay, so evidently this just comes right out. There we go. Okay. Now how would they expect something like this, something this complicated, to last? There's no way they thought that this thing was going to last. Okay, so the next step is to get a spanner wrench and remove that nut. And just so you guys know, this is the same spanner wrench that works on direct drive washers and belt drive washers. So, okay, it says once I do that, I should be able to lift this whole U-joint out, and there we go. The basket can now be lifted from the tub. It may be necessary to spread apart one of the drive block sections to loosen the basket from the splines of the spin tube. Oh, I see what it's saying. So it's saying, like, stretch one of these out. Oh, I see. The whole thing's going to come out. I could just hit it with some hot water and get it cleaned up. There we go. Oh god, this tub is disgusting. Alright, so this is underneath the machine. As you can see, there's this cross member that connects to 2 horizontal shock absorbers, I guess you'd call it. On top of that, I'm pretty sure that this machine is suspended by 4 suspension rods. So, and like, let's just get an idea of the complication of this machine. So, over here you have your dedicated recirculating pump. Is this the Yes, this is the recirculating pump. So it has, so the older generations had a separate motor and a separate replaceable pump that was held on by clips. So this must be a much newer model where they kind of figured out that design disaster, and this is probably the final version of this. So, but if you had a Calypso and your pump was bad, the only way to change it was to upgrade, and it was really, really expensive. This is the drive. Looks like there's some brake assembly in there. We're going to take this apart and see what the fuss is all about. And then you have over here is just your regular drive motor. This is like the, you know, what runs the machine. For the machine to drain, so it looks like if the motor spun one way, it would direct the water straight out of there and to the pump. But if it pumped the other way, it would take water from the sump and push it up through the recirc valve, or through the recirculating, you know, doodad. Because that's what it looks like. It looks like one way it goes out to the pump, but if it's sucking, it goes up and then recirculates. So pretty clever system, but definitely overkill. I mean, you see all these extra parts. You know, every part on a washing machine costs money, and when they're building a machine, it's, you know, every piece, even though it only costs, you know, maybe 50 cents, it costs a lot of money to make the mold, the design, to, you know, actually make the original piece, and then the production actually becomes a lot cheaper. But you multiply that times, you know, the hundreds of parts that this machine has, and you can see why this was such a very expensive machine. It was like really well built. You could tell like they were really trying to make a reliable machine. It just didn't work out. You know, there was a few just engineering disasters on this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this brace off and see. I've never been this far in a Calypso machine. I've usually given up on them before then, but I'm kind of curious. I'm going to go a little bit deeper. I'm definitely going to save the water pump because it's a very useful part, and then I'll probably take the drive belt. I might even take the motor if it's convenient, and then I might look in this little pulley assembly and see what's going on. Let me see if I could get this camera set up so you guys can actually see something. That's another bearing. This is still in good condition. Oh, there we go. Alright, well, I gotta tip this machine back a little bit. I also need to drain the tub now, so I'm gonna have to get the drain hose out and then on the floor. Yay! Okay, so it's drained. So now we could take the water pump off without flooding out my store, and then we could also remove this drive shaft spin tube doodad, and then we could probably take out this brake assembly too. So it will be pretty much parted out. I'm not going to take this base plate because it's not really worth my time to remove it. We'll get the model number, and then we'll send this one off to the scrap heap where it will turn into a Prius. Oh, and there's this, I guess is the spin tube. It's in really good condition. It's basically like a direct drive one, just like beefier and like, you know, slightly more complicated, I suppose. I don't know if this part will ever go bad. Maybe if somebody had a tub seal leak or something on this spin tube seal. It's a complete pump assembly. This will really make somebody's day. I'll bet you that's no longer available. So we are going to save the drain hose too, since I got it out in one piece. Okay, well, I did figure out how to remove the motor. Evidently when I took these two bolts off, you just got to rotate it. And voila, so we'll save that bad boy too. Well, that's it, guys. I can't figure out how to get this bearing out. I probably will destroy it when I remove it. That one looks like a really serious, like it's a pressed in part. and I don't think that it was designed to be replaced. And that's it, guys. We totally dismantled this Calypso washer. Well, we took everything worth taking. The rest of this is going to wind up in the scrap heap. I'm actually going to take the stainless barrel and I'm going to convert it into a fire pit. Which, if you guys haven't seen my fire pits yet, I'll give you a link in the description to my eBay store. I take, every time I part out these front loaders or high efficiency top loaders, some high efficiency top loaders, pretty much only the Calypsos, fabricate them into stainless steel fire pits, and they're really cool. They last like basically forever. I've had one in my backyard for like 4 years, completely uncovered. I never take it in when the season's over, like all year round, snow, heat, rain, whatever. It's fine. I use it pretty regularly when I have you know, some scrap wood to burn or whatever. But yeah, if you guys want one, feel free to buy one. I've sold quite a few of them. They're quite popular. And it's kind of like recycling, and you could have like a washing machine fire pit, which is pretty cool. Especially if like you're a washing machine nerd. Like I like washing machines, so every time I look at my fire pit, I'm like, oh, that's a Whirlpool Duet from circa 2000 something. So whatever. I have different brands of tubs. Some of my tubs are, well, most of them are Samsungs, because Samsungs are the worst when it comes to spider failure. So most of my fire pits are I have the apartment size one, which is like the old school, like circa 2000 Frigidaire ones, the ones that were built under the counter type machines. And I have like 1 or 2 of those. And then the most of them are going to be like the 3-ish, 3.5 cubic foot tubs, which are like basically all front loaders made from like 2004 to 2012 or something. I just started getting in some of those brand new, the Whirlpool front loaders. They're called the Whirlpool Alpha platform. And that's basically the newest version of the Whirlpool Duet. It's not like those are breaking spider arms, but what's been happening with those machines is that the motor control board has been going bad prematurely on those Duet washers. And it's a really, really, really expensive board. And it's actually, well, for a while it wasn't even available. So it was like Whirlpool wasn't letting independent servicers even buy them. They were saving all of them for their warranty service people because they had such a horrific failure rate that they were basically using all of them to just fix the machines that they had under warranty. I remember a couple of service calls where a customer had a 1 or 2 year old Whirlpool front loader, like an Alpha platform one. Their motor control board was bad and I couldn't help them, and they ended up throwing the machine away. And it wasn't an expensive washer. It was $700, $800. I couldn't get the part, and if they wanted to get it fixed, they had to call Whirlpool and they had to wait like a month and blah 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 and this, that, and the other. And some people just don't have the time to wait a month without a washing machine. They just need to do laundry. For those of you who like washing machines and like are interested in how they work and stuff, I always recommend like just buy a junky machine off of Craigslist or even the scrapyard, or find one on the tree lawn and just take it apart. You have nothing to lose at that point. It's a very low stakes operation. You don't have to fix it. If you take it apart and you're not able to put it back together, you lost nothing. You just lost a little bit of your time. You'll have a bunch of spare parts that you could either sell on eBay or save, or you could just scrap the whole machine and get a couple of bucks at the recycling yard. But that's how I taught myself how to fix appliances. Like, I'm not formally educated. I didn't take any trade classes or anything for appliance repair. There's not really classes per se. There's a few online people, but there's really not much to learn. You kind of learn by experience. So like this Calypso washer, I believe this is about the first time in my life that I ever got this far into a washing machine. This is my first time. You guys are seeing my first time taking out a brake assembly off of a Calypso. I've always just taken the water pump off and then scrapped the rest. You just kind of do trial by error, and if you end up ruining the machine, it's okay. It's really not that big of a deal. It's a washing machine, but you think about all of the experience that you learn by taking it apart, and eventually after you take more and more apart, you become more familiar and you become more comfortable taking them apart, and you have all the correct tools and stuff, which is You don't need anything really special. You just need some drills and some sockets and some nut drivers and a couple of Torx bits and stuff like that. So you know, you don't have to amass a $1,000 tool collection or anything like that. But yeah, you just take them apart and you figure it out. The manuals are available online. I don't know how I'm in business still fixing appliances for people. Every repair that I've done in the past probably 5 years is completely step-by-step documented on YouTube. And you could buy the part directly online for probably half of what I could get it for. 0 labor charge and 0 trip charge. So you could fix your washing machine for under $100. Even if it's a control board, you could fix it for less than $200. And what do you need me for? I don't know. Thanks for watching, guys.